Welcome to the Marvel Rivals Hardcore Ranked Challenge. The rules are pretty simple. I have to climb all the way to Grandmaster. But there's a catch. If I lose a match with a hero, they are gone forever. Can I reach the top without running out of heroes? Stick around to find out. Real quick, if you'd like to help me grow, make sure to leave a sub. By the way, this will only be part 1 of our climb through Platinum. If you know about Ranked, you know the moment we promote into Diamond, that's when bans come into play. So I thought before I get there, it would probably be a good idea to start playing heroes that I might not get the chance to play again in Diamond due to their high ban rates. So I looked up the current ban rates and saw the most banned heroes were Wolverine, Hulk, Storm, and Luna Snow. All of them were still alive in this challenge. So these are gonna be the heroes I'll predominantly play in this episode. I also remembered Hela being really strong, at least in last season, so I thought even with her nerfs, she couldn't have fallen off that hard. But I'm probably not one to judge, because if you've seen my last videos, you'll know I might not get along the best with sniper heroes. So here's a quick edit of my best shots I almost hit. But you know, now that we've got Hela out of the way, we can move on to our real top tier heroes. The ones that I relied on to do most of the heavy lifting, to get us out of Platinum. And who better to start with than our champion from last episode, Wolverine. Together with the Punisher, he was able to get us a massive win streak in last episode. And I believed in him to put in a show this time around as well. And he proved to be a force to be reckoned with, blazing through enemies with ease. I went for a more reclusive playstyle, getting fewer kills, but when I did, I made sure they had impact, taking out key targets in the enemy team. And riding this wave of momentum, I was able to make my way into Platinum 2 pretty confidently. And although we were on a pretty good run with Wolverine, the moment I had an Iron Man on my team, I knew I had to seize the opportunity and pick Hulk to enable that massively powerful team up. And although I wasn't all too experienced on the Hulk, the sheer power of our team up seemed to be enough to overwhelm them, and so we ended up sweeping the floor with the enemy team. But could we maintain this performance in our very next match with Hulk, in which we only ended up having the Doctor Strange power up? And the answer seemed to be yes? We had a pretty quick start. I put on constant pressure on their frontline, using Hulk's fast charging leap to disengage when needed, and so we steadily pushed the enemy further and further back towards the first checkpoint. But our momentum turned out to be fragile, and 2 ults of theirs chained together seemed to have killed most of it, pushing us back considerably. On top of that, they had an outstanding magic that repeatedly wreaked havoc on our backlines, and also managed to keep us tanks in check. And although we had 2 minutes on the clock, we never managed to recover and claim that first checkpoint. And apart from an early game in which we managed to get a hold of the convoy a couple of times, the second round didn't look much more promising either. I was definitely hoping to get a bit more out of Hulk, with him being the anchor hero of such a powerful team-up ability. So 1 win and 1 loss wasn't exactly maximum value, but it could have been worse too. Moving forward, for my next pick, I decided to go with another meta-defining DPS hero this season, being none other than Storm. Once the laughingstock of Marvel Rivals, consistently seen at the bottom of every tier list, now she's on top. Notorious for being one, if not the best hero this season, with her great ult, amazing damage and mobility, paired with her supportive capabilities, she's an absolute staple of top tier plays, if she's not banned, making her perfect for Platinum, being the last tier in which she won't get effectively banned in every game. The only downside, I wasn't used to her playstyle at all. If you saw last season's Hardcore Rank Challenge, you know we lost her immediately to an Iron Man. But thanks to some advice from the comments, I had a plan this time around. Despite my inexperience, she was surprisingly easy to pick up. You know my aim isn't great, but her fast, large projectiles made landing hits effortless. Before I knew it, I was topping kill counts I struggled to reach even with my best heroes like Magic. Storm was already tearing through enemies. But once again, after a couple of great performances, leading to a handful of wins catapulting me into Platinum 1, this very next match would be the test of power my Storm would have to face to show what she's truly made of. And we weren't off to a prime start. After an early clash, I was singled out and eliminated, leaving my team struggling to contest the point. But I was back soon enough, ready to fortify our front lines. Venom led the charge and we followed. For a moment it seemed to work. We gained ground until Wolverine cut down our supports. Psylocke killed me again and her ult sealed our second face-off in a loss. Before we could re-engage, their capture progress had already passed 50%. And when we did finally engage, it was brief. Their support ults countered mine. And just like that, the first set point was theirs. But we weren't done. The second set began, and this time I played it smarter, positioning myself away from the chaos. It didn't matter though. A well-placed portal from Doctor Strange threw me straight into danger, and I was cut down instantly. Luna Snow's ult kept my team alive a little longer, but they fell before I could return. Then the tide turned. Cloak and Dagger's ult, a staple of top-tier play, forced the enemy off the point, setting up a clean squad wipe. For the first time, we had control, but at what cost? I had a sinking feeling. Cloak and Dagger's ult is best used to counter opposing ults, and if theirs was still in play, we had nothing to stop it. My fears proved right. Their Cloak and Dagger ult hit us at full force the next fight, shifting control back in their favor. Their progress crept closer to 100%. Time was running out. On our next push, we gave it everything. Squirrel Girl and Cloak and Dagger's ult combined to reclaim the point just as overtime began. But the enemy wasn't done either. They pushed back hard, forcing us on the defensive. I had one last chance, one last ult to turn the tide, but right as I popped it, their Cloak and Dagger had theirs ready again, shutting me down, reclaiming the point, and putting an end to my storm. Real quick, if you'd like to help me monetize my videos a little bit, you can check out my Patreon or my shop in the description. Regardless if you do or not, I'm really grateful if you're just watching till here. Thank you so much. Now let's move on with the video. At this point I started feeling like whenever we got rolling with a handful of wins, suddenly all the odds were stacked against us, taking all the wind out of our sails. Now, maybe it was really just my lack of skill, not being able to land shots consistently and failing to close out certain kills, or maybe it was due to some issue with the teammates. But maybe, just maybe, it could have been a bigger, darker force intervening with our strains of luck. You know, recently this clip of Nick Merckx has started this whole debate of like loser queue and the game sort of sabotaging you to a degree that feels really unfair. And if you ask me, this is more of like self-fulfilling prophecy than an actual mechanic that's meant to keep you from winning. But the game really doesn't make it easy for you to buy that with repeating patterns like this. You see, having fallen out of Plat 1, I decided to pick another top-tier hero out of that ban list, Luna Snow. And despite this being only the second healer I'm playing in this whole challenge, I immediately found my groove. Get it? At first, we were absolutely stomping the enemy team, in one of the more dominant performances I've had in this challenge, stopping them just as they reached the first checkpoint and feeling incredibly confident. But yet again, in our very next game, we ended up running head-on into a wall once more, with us falling short to meet the tie condition of pushing the convoy through the last checkpoint in overtime. This loss only served to further highlight the big contrast that is felt in ranked games between victories and losses. Whenever we win, we do it in a stunning fashion, but when we were on the losing end, the enemies almost always wiped the floor with us. I was really struggling to get close matches in Platinum tier. It was really either winning or losing hard. For me, this meant that, like so many times before, we needed a hero who could carry us through the fire once more. Someone who could pull us out of the hole we were sinking into and put us back into a fighting position. And who better than the one and only Wolverine, the relentless warrior who had clawed his way through adversity time and again, the one who had turned hopeless battles into hard-fought victories, who had saved us in the past when everything seemed lost. But this time, things felt different. Loser Q had its claws on me, dragging me deeper with every match, and no matter how hard I fought, it refused to let go. And with another gut-wrenching defeat behind us, we had to face a brutal truth. We had just lost one of our greatest heroes, Wolverine, the one who had turned the tides of battle more than anyone else had finally met his fate. I decided to give it a little break, reset mentally, and focus on rekindling my fire to try and come back better than ever. And for me, there was only one hero that came into question to pull that off. Magic! Staple of this hardcore ranked challenge, and with us from the very beginning. Would she be enough to overcome the brutal force of nature that Loser Q was? Or would the dark looming energy that laid over me get a hold once more and swallow Magic, my best hero, into that relentless, never-ending hole of darkness? And as much as I'd like this to be a movie where the hero rises against all odds, just when the world needs them the most, reality had other plans. I kept dying over and over before I could even leave a scratch. Every death, every lost fight was another ember snuffed out. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how desperately I fought to turn things around, the more I struggled, the more I fell. And as my team turned on me, raining down insults, tearing into me for daring to go 0-7 in a match like this, a bitter truth crawled its way into my mind. It wasn't Loser Q that kept me from gaining RP. It wasn't some unseen force ripping my heroes away from me, one after another. It was me. I was the loser. But all that anger, all that frustration, it ignited a raging flame, a fire that burned away the doubt, the hesitation, the weight of every loss before it. This wasn't just about Magic anymore. This was about me, about proving, if only to myself, that I wasn't just some helpless player caught in the tide. I was the damn storm! Now, don't get me wrong, me picking up the pace towards the end of the round didn't mean we had suddenly won. All it meant that we were back in the race, but the actual finish line, that was still miles away. Still, I had regained my grit, and I wasn't planning on slowing down anytime soon. After a decisive first teamfight, we emerged victorious. The convoy was in our hands, and now it was up to us to drag it all the way to the third checkpoint to keep ourselves alive in this match. But if we thought for a second that the enemy had lost their fire, we were dead wrong. They were in it just as much as we were. And to remind us of that, they came back swinging hard, a full squad wipe, a brutal slap of reality. If we wanted that checkpoint, we'd have to take it the hard way. Every inch forward would be drenched in blood, sweat, and sheer determination. After getting a hold of the convoy once more, I decided to take it slow and stay with the convoy to speed it up instead of pushing with the rest of the team. And playing overall more reserved, trying to not give up any easy deaths anymore. Those times were over. And with this slow and careful approach, we eventually made it, transitioning over into the second half of the way. But we wouldn't keep this slow and steady approach for much longer. More and more, we started to find our footing in this matchup, picking up the pace considerably in the second half of the way. With our support ults backing us, we managed to rush the enemy back, closer and closer to their spawn, but we might have overestimated ourselves. Because with practically their whole team ulting, we were quickly forced to retreat back to our convoy, shifting the momentum in their favor once more. But if they thought they'd had the last word, they were dead wrong, and I'd make sure to prove my point. Popping ult to turn the tables completely once again. And 1 meter after another, we made our way into the finish line. But it wasn't even close to over. This was just the first step, nothing more than a foothold on the steep climb towards redemption. Making it into the tiebreak meant I had one last chance to make up for the failures of the first round. One last shot at rewriting the story I had nearly let slip out of my hands. But the odds were still against us. They had the clear time advantage, making them the favorites on paper. Yet paper doesn't bleed. Paper doesn't feel the weight of a battle fought with everything you have left. And if we had proven anything, it was that we would not go down without a fight. No, we couldn't lose, because losing meant losing everything. Everything I had clawed and scraped for. Every ounce of effort I had poured into making up for my mistakes. Losing meant losing magic. And losing magic meant losing hope. Going into the set, I was ready to be ruthless. Honor fades when everything is on the line. When losing someone as vital as magic isn't an option. Portaling behind enemy lines, we struck like assassins. Cutting down the unprepared foes in an instant and claiming control over the convoy. But the time we had to push it forward was laughable. Every inch gained felt like a blessing, a miracle carved out in seconds. Then, overtime hit. No more second chances. A single lost teamfight and it was over. And as I fell, a bitter realization set in. I had just handed over control of the convoy to the very teammates who had mocked and flamed me. The same people who had written me off. But right now, they were all I had. They were my last hope. Rushing back to the fight, just as my final teammate dropped, I knew our only chance was me. One last ult to stay in it. But no, it wasn't enough. Now the equation was simple. If the enemy team pushed their convoy even a fraction further than ours, everything would crumble. Yet in that moment, something clicked. As if the weight of our situation reached everyone at once. No more doubts, no more division. We all understood the assignment. And so we fought. We fought like our lives depended on it. Shutting down every enemy attempt before it could take shape. The pressure never let up. The tension never broke. Then, one final ult, one last decisive blow to seal our fate. And just like that, we won. But beyond all the excitement and relief that came from saving magic, a heavy truth began to settle in. After all this, we were still only halfway through Platinum. Stay tuned if you'd like to see if I can make it all the way to Grandmaster without losing all my heroes first.